everyone. My name is Frank Driscoll, and welcome to Driscoll's Election Dissection, your election analysis for Across the Circus. I hope you all are doing well today, wherever you are. So, we're back on the regularly scheduled primary schedule. As you may know, no state had a scheduled primary election from June 25th up until the date for this next episode. But, we did keep busy. We talked about the election in the UK, which was fun, and hopefully we'll talk about more global elections in the future, as well as the special election in New Jersey. But if you've been paying attention to the political world, you'll notice a lot has happened in the last month, including, on the Republican side, an attempt at the life of former President Donald Trump, as well as his choosing of J.D. Vance as his running mate, and on the other side of the coin, the withdrawal of President Joe Biden from the presidential race and the endorsement and the Democrats all coming behind Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democratic nomination, which will result in a presidential election like no other. And I know it seems like they say that every 4 years, but trust me when I say this. This is an election like no other. Meanwhile, for today's program, we're talking about primary elections set to take place on Tuesday, July 30th and Thursday, August 1st. Yes, we're talking about two states today. One state who has their primary on Tuesday the 30th. One that holds their primaries usually on a Thursday. In this case, Thursday, August 1st. Those two states are, on the 30th, the state of Arizona, and on August 1st, the state of Tennessee. So we're going to be talking about a number of races for this edition of the program. One Democratic primary, the rest GOP primaries. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. Let's pack our bags and head to the Grand Canyon state, the state of Arizona. So we'll talk about the lone Democratic primary that we'll be talking about today, and that's taking place in Arizona's 3rd congressional district. Now, this is Arizona's most Democratic district in the state. The Cook PVI has the Democrats favored by 24 points. Yes, so whoever wins this election is all but sure to win in November. Now, the current representative is Democratic Representative Ruben Gallego. He is not running for re-election for the House because he is running for the Democratic nomination for Senate. And with Kyrsten Sinema not running for re-election, although she's no longer a Democrat, she's now an independent, he is running with token opposition on the Democratic primary. Now, we'll talk about the Republican primary for that race in just a moment, but first we'll talk about Ruben Gallego's seat in Congress. Now, in this race, there are three major candidates, those being former Phoenix City Councilwoman Yasamin Ansari, former State Senate Minority Leader Raquel Tehran, and physician Dwayne Wooten. Now, it's a bit of neck and neck in terms of fundraising. Ansari has raised a bit more than Tehran. However, in polls, Ansari looks to be pretty good in the most recent one. A recent poll from Pollster Lake Research Partners, which was sponsored by the Ansari campaign for that matter, has Ansari leading by 11 points. But there was a poll back in April from pollster Target Smart and sponsored by Progress Now Arizona, which had Tehran leading Ansari by 10 points. And those seem to be the only two major polls in the last calendar year. And as we all know, I always say on this show, the only poll that matters is the one on election day. So we'll just have to wait and see how this one turns out. So now we go to the Republican side of things. First, we'll start off with the primary for the U.S. Senate seat. As I mentioned before, Kyrsten Sinema is not running for re-election. Ruben Gallego is running on the Democratic side. And on the Republican side, there is a bit of a crowded primary, Arizona being a swing state, which a lot of pollsters are going to be looking at in the presidential election this fall. And the Senate election, based on presidential results, could sway one way or the other. Now, there are two major candidates in the Senate race, those being former TV news anchor and 2022 governor nominee for the GOP, Kari Lake, and Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb. Now, Kari Lake is seen by many as a rising star in the Republican Party, very pro-Donald Trump, and of course has Donald Trump's endorsement, and had a very close race in 2022 for the governor's race, and seems to have major endorsements from the Republican establishment, and seems to be leading most polls, too. The most recent poll from May, from pollster Noble Predictive Insights, has Lake leading Lamb by 25 points. So it looks pretty good for Lake, but we're going to be looking at this race in November because it should be very, very close. And now we head to Republican congressional district races in Arizona. We'll start with the 2nd congressional district. Now, the current incumbent representative for Arizona's 2nd congressional district is Republican Eli Crane. He was first elected just 2 years ago. However, he faces a primary challenge from former Yavapai County Supervisor Jack Smith. Now, Crane, according to a Politico article, was one of the only 8 House Republicans to remove Kevin McCarthy from the speakership, and that perceived him as vulnerable in this election cycle. And Crane does have a good share of fundraising. Jack Smith has not fundraised much, and we don't have any polls on this race either. This is a safe Republican district, so whoever wins will very likely win in November, so it should make an interesting race. Meanwhile, from there, we head to the 8th congressional district. Now, the current representative from Arizona's 8th congressional district is Republican Debbie Lesko, who has served since 2018 after winning a special election to the seat. She is not running for re-election in the House, but she's not giving up public service. In fact, she is running for a seat on the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. So from there, the seat's open, and it's a pretty crowded primary. There are 5 major candidates in that race, those being former Congressman Trent Franks, attorney Abe Hamadeh, State Senator Anthony Kern, venture capitalist and 2022 GOP Senate nominee Blake Masters, and State House Speaker Ben Toma. Now, this is the most crowded primary in Arizona's congressional delegation for the Republican side. A lot of well-known local politicians here. And when it comes to fundraising, Blake Masters seems to be doing very well for himself, a lot of his campaign being self-funded, as he did 2 years ago in the Senate race, losing to Mark Kelly. And it shows to be doing well for him, because he is leading polls. In fact, there have been 2 polls coming out in the past month, the first from the July 8th through the 9th, from pollster Fabrizio Lee and Associates and sponsored by the Masters campaign. Masters led Abe Hamadeh by only 1 point. But then a poll from July 17th through 18th from pollster Data Orbital had Masters leading by 3 points. So it seems like the votes are going to be spread out. That's all from Arizona. So from there, we head to the state that's holding its primary on Thursday, August 1st. We head to the volunteer state, the state of Tennessee. Now, we're only talking about 1 primary election here, and that is from Tennessee's 5th congressional district. Now, the current representative for Tennessee's 5th congressional district is Republican Andy Ogles. He was first elected just 2 years ago and has been seen as one of the most conservative members in the House, which has caused him to have a very high-profile primary challenge. His main opponent in the primary is Davidson County Metro Councilwoman Courtney Johnston. And both Ogles and Johnston are neck and neck when it comes to fundraising. In fact, according to an article, it showed Ogles' fundraising total was actually the 2nd lowest for any incumbent running for re-election in the U.S. House. And we don't seem to have any polls in this race. However, it's set to be an interesting one. We don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And as always, if you're willing to learn more about elections in your area, be sure to check out politics1.com as well as ballotpedia.com. And if you're willing to look at recent polls, be sure to check out 538.com. So a lot of races today. I tried to get through each one as best as I could. The ones in Arizona and the ones in Tennessee. Those races I mentioned should be the ones to watch for on those election nights, respectively. And as always I say, if you are a registered voter in the state of Arizona or in the state of Tennessee, I don't care who you vote for, but I do care that you vote, so please do. Thank you for listening to Driscoll's Election Dissection. If you would like to learn more about the show, go online to algidproductions.com/acrossthecircus, and be sure to listen to us on any podcasting form you like. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all very soon.